Our 2020 External Vulnerabilities and Resilience Report evaluates and ranks 63 countries around the world on their exposures to external crises and balance of payment shocks. This is particularly relevant this year in 2020, given the major global shock in the COVID-19 crisis and how that external stress has fed through already to turbulence in global markets and emerging markets. What we identify is a new risky three of three countries in our 2020 rankings that are the most exposed and least resilient to external crisis. These three are Georgia, Turkey, and Argentina. These are economies with current account deficits, high turbulence in FX rates, and fairly high dollarization or euroization in their economies, including with respect to the FX risk in government debt. Against that, we also identify a new sturdy three of three economies that are the most resilient or least vulnerable to external stress. These include two countries that repeat this year in the top three, namely China and Switzerland, as well as one newcomer to the list, in Taiwan. We present our external risk report in a two-axis coordinate grid, with riskier countries generally in quadrant 1 on the top right, and those that are the least at risk in quadrant 3 on the bottom left. There are some interesting cases as well of countries that are kind of in between those poles. In quadrant 4, for example, on the bottom right, there are countries that have external vulnerabilities, like current account deficits, but are resilient to those risks because of, for example, being reserve currency economies. Think the United Kingdom or the United States. And there are countries in quadrant 2, on the top left, if an economy is not that vulnerable necessarily to external risk, for example, having a current account surplus, but were to experience an FX crisis, however unlikely that is, it might be less resilient. Think Croatia or Bulgaria. This report and ranking gives us a framework to consider 2020 in a year of what is an economic shock of greater severity than the global financial crisis, and which countries might be more or less exposed, informing our ratings deliberations.